Hey my friend, this is Duc Tran, founder of Developers Academy and creator of Socialize Your Apps 2017. In this video, I would love to share with you how to build this amazing Facebook Newsfeed app. Yeah, this is the app it looks like after we complete this video training. We have a table view of post of photos and videos, right? So each of the posts will looks like this. We have a caption, the profile photo, we have the username, we have the time that is posted, we have the caption of the post, and then each of the posts will have an image. We have the number of likes and comments and share, the like button, comment button, and share. Below that is just new post, beautifully created, just like the Facebook app. And also we have this navigation bar, looks amazing. We have the search, we have the button for the messages and the friends tab. Also below is our tab controller, right? So pretty simple UI, but it looks amazing because I know that maybe a lot of you, when you go and learn to build apps and you see that the apps that you're building is not as beautiful as you want it to be, then maybe you're asking, how can I build beautiful apps? How can I create real-world apps with world-class design like this? So in this video, I would love to share with you how to do that. Number one, let's download your starter project that I prepared for you in the button. Click the button right below this page or the link right below this page. You'll find the download for your starter project so that I can prepare for you. I prepare for you for some images so you can see in the assets, the Excel sets, we have some images, tons of images for our things. We have the icons for our friends, comments, like, share, the global news feed, notification, all of those stuff I've already prepared for you. So we don't have to create it in this demo. And then inside your app delegate, the way that you would create the navigation bar, very simple, is you have the bar tint colors, change that to the blue. We change the tint color of the navigation bar to white so that we have the white icon and white button and the white text for the buttons. And then we have the translucent is blue again so that this thing again here is blue. And then when we set over here, right over here, when we set the bar style to be black over there, then this the status bar is going to be white. That is the way that you set the status bar to white in the navigation controller. Pretty simple stuff, right? So download the start project. Let's get into step number 2 is you design your table view cell. The table view cell. So each of the cell will look something like this, right? This is the complete project. After we design it, it will look like this. So let's do that. I will head over the main.storybar. Okay, so we head over the main.storybar. You see there's a main.storybar here. The root view controller is going to be our tab bar controller. Right, the tab bar controller. And then when we scroll over here, we have just very simple 5 tabs. We don't implement the other 5. It is not the topic of this video, but we will implement this newsfeed, right? This newsfeed right here, and you see this newsfeed, right? This newsfeed, we just have a navigation controller, an icon, and the newsfeed table view controller. We use this as the newsfeed table view controller. Cool? Let's go into this. So I'm going to drag out this cell down below like this, right? We will drag down below like this, so we have some space we can work on. So number one, I'm going to drag out the profile image because you see the profile image over here, the profile image, the name of the user, and some things below there. So I will, what's the image? Yeah, UI image, UI image view, drag that down, UI image view. So I will drag this image to be, let's name this image over here. I will make this so that we can all use the space. So the name of the image, let's change that to Duc. And you see that it is a little bit squeezed. So let's change that, the content mode to aspect fill, right? So we fill the image and then now you see that there's, I don't know if you can see this, but the image is out of its bound a little bit. You see this? The handle is over here, but the image is out of the bound. So the way we can do this is we will check this thing called clip to bounce, right? Clip to bounce. So we make sure that it is clip to bounce. And then let's drag this thing over here right? So we have over here, let's change the size of the image. We change the size of the image to 12 points for the X, 12 the Y, the width is 36, and the height is also 36 points, okay? Now, one point very trivial you may ask is, how do you know the exact location of each of the element that I'm going to teach you, right? How do I know that? The answer is pretty simple. If you're going to work with a team of people in your startup or your company, then maybe you have a designer. Or if you work on your own startup, then you are the designer, right? So before you work on any complex app, meaning that any app pretty complex like this, then please do me a favor to design your own app first, because it will save you a lot of time. The tool that we use is Sketch. Sketch is an incredible, easy to use tool that you don't have to be a designer, a professional designer, to design your own app. I am not a professional designer, but I design all of my apps because Sketch is so simple to use. And inside Socialize Your Apps 2017, we teach you how to do that, how to design app using Sketch, all of those good stuff. I hope that you will join us someday. But inside here, right, so let's go back into our work. We have the profile picture, right? So I will tell you all the aspect, the ratio, the point to the location of the images, because I already know that, okay? So let's have the label. Now the label is going to be the name of our author. So let's drag this thing to the top, right, like this. Let's make some space. We'll double click here. We make sure that this is Duc Tran, like this, and then we want to change the font. So we want to change the font to just 15 point, and let's make this thing to be bold, okay? And then I will still select the label, right? Hold the command equal sign so that it goes back into its frame like that, or it bounds, and then we do it like this, drag it out so this thing aligns with the blue guidelines. Cool? Like that. Okay, now next up, let's have another label. Let's drag out another label like this so that we can have this thing over here. Right, you see this thing, the date it's posted, and also the icon, right? So let's do that. We have double click here, say 5 hours, like that, right? So I will change this thing into 12 point. We change the color into dark gray color, like that. Right? So again, command equal sign, and then we drag this thing to the screen like that. Cool? Okay, next up, let's have another image for this little icon. I hope that you can see this. This little icon over here. This icon is because in Facebook, right? In Facebook, I don't know if you know this, but in Facebook, you can set whether your post is seen by all of your friends or whether your post is only seen by the whole world, right? It means that public. So this icon, if it is a global icon like this, then it is the whole world can see it. So we can do that. Let's drag out UI image like this, drag it out like that, right? So I will have the little thing, 12 points like this. Let's say it is 10 by 10. Okay, and then we will drag this thing very careful, drag to the middle like this. Okay, you see this? Let's drag this thing. It's hard to do because it's small. So let's drag it. Oops. Let's drag this thing, the image, to be right in the center of this label. See this thing, blue guideline? Do that. Okay, it's pretty hard to do because it is small. So now we want to make sure that it is 4 points to this text. So 1, 2, let me see. Oh, this is 16, so cool. So let's make thing, 5. So we need to, one more, so just 4 points to the label over here, right? Just 4 points. Okay, next up, let's change this image, the image, into our icon below, like that. Okay. Okay, now, the nearly last thing is we want to have another label. Now because the label for the caption over here is going to be the system font and is also 15 point. So I'm going to make sure that we have this label, copy, paste over here for the label, And then we just have to change our number of lines into like 3 lines, right? Just 3 lines. And then the user wants to see the whole post, they can click into that, right? So we make sure that the style is just regular, like this, okay, for this thing. Okay, now I want to change our label, the post, because you can go to the post over here, okay, and I will drag it up like this, and you will see wise words from Will Smith. I love this thing, right? So let's drag out, copy, paste some text. Okay, you can put any text here. I want to do a long text so that we can have some long text to work with, especially with auto layout later on, right? So let's have this thing. Double click into this label, copy paste like this, right? So when we do this, it will be a little too small. So we are going to need to find this thing. Xcode doesn't allow me to do that. It's a new thing in Xcode, right? So let me change this thing over here. Okay, so let's change the size. So now I don't know if it's a new update in Xcode. It doesn't allow us to change the things like that. So I will select this thing. Make sure the width is like 360 points. Right, so we can have it small like this. Then we can work with this thing. Drag it to the top, 12 to the right, to the left, so that it is aligned, and then 8 to the top. 8 to the top, and 12 to the right too. So 8 and 12. Cool. Now, let's drag this thing, drag the caption down a little bit, so that we have it 3 lines, like that, right? So 3 lines, 8 to the top, 8, 12 left, 12 right, pretty simple. Next up, let's have another image for the post. Another image for the post, like that, okay? Now before we do, let's apply auto layout for each of the element too, right? So I'm going to apply auto layout, but what I want to challenge you to do in this video is, I want to challenge you to pause this video, to pause this training, and then work on auto layout for these things first. And then come back with me, check with me in just a moment, okay? So do it now, come back with me. You just do it. Okay, this is the way I'm going to do it, okay? So I will select this image. We will use the pin button here, uncheck the constraint to margin, left and right, top and left, width and height, and then we add the constraint. Okay, that's simple. This thing, so we use pin button again, uncheck the constraint to margin, the top, because we need the Y position, the X position, the Y position, the left over here, so that we can have the X position, right? So we add the constraint. The same for this thing. So we are going to use this thing, uncheck the constraint to margin, top and left, right? And then this thing, the global button. So uncheck constraint to margin, top and left, like that, right? And also we need the width and height because it is an image. Width and height, add the constraint. Cool, pretty simple. Now it's time for this text, right? It's time for the text. So in the caption, uncheck the constraint to margin, top, left and right, like that. And we change this little. Now if you see that it is the bounds of this thing is not true. So we have a new button in Xcode. Before we have to use this thing, right? But now it is not in the resolve the auto layout problem now, but it is a new button over here. This new button that you see over here, it is the resolve, the update of frame, so we can update frames like that. I like that, right? Before we have to go here, update the frame somewhere over here. Now we just have to click that thing. Pretty neat. So next up, let's have this image, 8 to the top, 0 up into the edges like this, right? So let's drag this thing because I'm going to need some spaces. We need some spaces. So let's drag this cell down below here too. Okay, let's make this image, the width to be 375, which is the width of the iPhone 7, and height to be the same, like that. So we have a square image. Cool. Let's do auto layout for this thing. Auto layout, left, top, and right, width and height. We don't need the width. We don't need the height. We need the aspect ratio. So add the 4 constraint. Okay. I hope that you get that. It should be simple for you, right? So we have the top constraint, the left and the right constraint. The left and the right constraint allows us to have the width of the image. It's always this big, right? It's always this big to the screen. And then we have the ratio, so that we always have the ratio to be 1 and 1. Now, you may ask, how can we have the ratio to be not a square? Right? To be not a square. It's pretty simple. You still do this, but don't have the ratio constraint. Rather, have a height constraint. When you have the height constraint, later on when we have a cell, a table view cell, drag the height constraint to be an IB outlet. And then when we have the image, you can calculate the height and the width of the image, and then you change the height constraint of the auto layout of the image. Pretty simple, right? Pretty easy. But now in this video, I want to do just a square, because in Facebook and in Instagram, we just use mostly square, and also for the sake of the demo, so we can have like a simpler process to work on. Okay. So next up, let's have our the likes button, the share button, and these things. Right? We have the number of likes, the separator, and like comment. Okay. So let's have this thing. An UI view, so we need a UI view. Drag this thing to the left. Oops, it's actually a label. So I'm going to drag out a label. So a label, like this, drag it out, right? So double click, something like 1.5, 15 likes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 30 comments. And say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 500 shares, something like this. So we have some data to work on, right? Next up, let's change this thing into, the font is just 12, right? We just use 12 over here. The color, dark gray color. And then we change, that should be good. Command equal again, so it is like this, okay? And then 12 to the top, 12 left, just like this. So 12 to the top and 12 to the left. Okay. Now auto layout. Pin button. Uncheck the constraint to margin, top and left, because it is a label. It has intrinsic content size, right? It means that it knows whatever the text inside the label, it knows the width and height of that label. Okay. Next up, let's have a UI view, because we want to have a little separator over here. I'm not sure if you can see it, a little space separator, right? So let's have that thing. UI view, drag it out to the screen like this, right? And then we have the background. Let's use dark gray color. Oops, I'm sorry, light gray color. You know what? Let me change it into this special color, into D3, D6, and D8, okay? Again, what's that color? Inside our design, right? So you should know that. So over here, drag it like this, to the left, and to the right, like this, 12, 12, and 12 to the top, to the label too. And then we drag this thing, just leave it there, right? Just leave it there. And then we want to make sure that auto layout is set. So, uncheck the constraint margin, top, 12, left and right, so we have the width. And then the height, I want to change the height into just 1 point. 1 point, so that we have just the height is 1. And then we update the frames, check, okay, just like this. So we have the separator. Cool? Okay, now let's have the buttons, like, share, comment button, like this, okay? So I know the process of designing is a little bit long, because it is long. But I hope that I make it fun. I hope that I make it enjoyable for you. And it is simple to do this thing in storyboard, right? So let's do a button. Drag out a button like this, right? So I have a button, and then we change the text color. Let's change the text color into dark gray color. Okay, and then we changed the system is 15 points for the system font like this. Okay, and then let's change the image. The image here, I want to change it into icon like that. Okay, the button text, the text of the button over here. Let's change that into 3 space. Now I know there's a different way to do that using the inset of and the offset of the image inside the button, but let's do it in the just easy way. So we have like, right? So we have like icon and the like, just like this. Cool, right? Okay, now let's have another button for the share and the comment. Duplicate this thing like this, and this thing is share, right? So we can just change the icons into icon like into icon share because we already have the icon like this, and then we have this thing too, right? So we have the icon into icon comment, and instead of share we do comment like that. Let's add some space here. Okay, cool. Comment equal, all of the buttons. Now, the question is, this is an interesting one. How can we apply auto layout for this thing? Because we know we have to align it something like this, right? We have aligned that, and then how can we just have these buttons? So a little bit to the left, a little bit to the top and right, right? Let me set my mic here. It is a little mic. So to up, left and right, how can we do that? The way we do this is we are going to use a stack view. We're going to use stack view. We are not going to use auto layout for all of these 3 buttons because it is really hard to use auto layout onto these 3 buttons, right? Because you need to make sure that these 3 buttons have the same size, and then there's some space between these 2 buttons. Get what I mean? And then these 2 spaces have to be the same. Can you imagine how hard that is in auto layout? It's really hard, right? Before stack view in iOS 8 or 9, we have to use auto layout for that. And the only way we do this is either in code, or if we just use auto layout, we need to have like 2 different views between these things. It's hard. So let's do it the easy way. Here we go. I'm going to select all of these 3 things. Okay. Oops. I think that let's change this font size over here into 15. Okay, just 15. Cool. Okay, now let's make sure that we use this button. You see this little button over here? The button? It's called embed in a stack, right? Embed in a stack. So we can click this thing, it pushes together all these 3 buttons into a stack. Okay, and then we can organize this thing using this stack view. The way we do this, let's drag up like that, attribute inspector. Okay, and then you would see that the axis, it means that how do you want to organize these 3 buttons? I want to use organize horizontally, right? Or you can do vertically, it could be stacked vertically like this, right? So then the alignment, let's change the alignment into center. So it's always aligned in the center. And then the fill distribution, I want to fill equally. So that there's always the buttons the same size of the button. Cool? Okay, now it's our job to do auto layout again. So the auto layout here, pretty simple. Let me drag this thing above like this, 12 point to the top, right? So let me do this, 12 to the label, the separator, so 12, right? It should be 12, like that. And then we should have just 12 below here. Now, before we do that, I know that I want to have a little separator for each of the posts, right? So you see the complete project, there's a little separator over here between each of the posts. How can we have that? It's just a simple UI view. So drag out a UI view like this, right? Drag this thing out to the screen. Make sure that the color is now changed to D3, D6, D8, like this. Oops. All right, so we change the color, and then I will change this thing over here. Oops. Let's drag it. No, don't drag it into this. Let's drag it over here. Make it smaller. Okay. Like this. 12 to the left and 12 to the right, and 12 to our buttons, to the button over here. So 8, 9, 11, 12, like this. To the right and to the left, like this. Cool. Now we change the size into the height, just 8. Okay, the height of this thing is just 8. All right, now we know that we have 48 points below that. It is unnecessary. So let's change the height of this thing minus 148, right? Because we don't want to use the separator too. So I want to, again, click into the table view because we don't want to use the built-in separator of the table view. So over here, the separator here is none. Okay, make sure it is none, and then we minus, oops, the cell height. Okay, the row height to be, let's do some math. 636 minus 47 is 589. So 589 point. Row height. Oops, did I do something wrong? Like this, right? So 589 point for the height of the row. Cool? So it looks pretty nice like this. So all I did is I clicked into table view, changed the row height of the table view into 589. 98, right? 98, not 89. 89. 589, like this. Right. Okay. Last thing before we move into our coding. So select our where is that? The stack view over here. Do auto layer for this thing, and check the constraint to margin. Top is 12, left is 12, right is 12, like this, and then we add the constraint like that. Now again, we'll use the update the frames button, right? Update the frames button like this. Update the frames, it looks really nice, like that. And then the last thing for this separator, we select this thing, and let's make sure it is, 13 is fine. 0 top, 0 left, and bottom. The height is 8. Boom. My friend, it is now set up for your newsfeed, right? This is the storyboard. Before we go into coding, let's make sure we have an image over here so that it looks nice. So we have some image like 1, okay? Aspect fill, like this. Okay, now let's go into step number 3 is after you design your app UI, your cell, let's create a subclass of UITableViewCell so that we can subclass that cell. We can put in any content that we want for the cell. If you are not familiar with TableView, this is a great introduction for you. Okay, so let's go to the left, right click a new file. Oops, I just click view in storyboard, so new file. Okay, I'm going to use a Swift file, and then let's do post cell. Like this. Select there, make it there, create the thing. Okay. Now let's do some control and drag from the storyboard. So main storyboard. And we want to make sure that we set the cell subclass, the custom class of this cell, custom class into post cell. Right? So over here. Oops, I need to create the class first. So you know what? Hold Option key, open this post cell to the left and right like this, right? So let's import UIKit, right? So let's have some space here. We can work on this. So import UIKit like this. Let's create a class. Class post cell. It is a subclass of UITableViewCell. Okay, let's create this thing. Now, all I have to do is select this cell. Select the cell. Go over here, Attribute Inspector, change the subclass into, custom class into post cell. Right, post cell. Pretty cool. Now, let's make sure we control drag to create some IB outlet. So right click and drag from this thing is our profile image view, like this, right? Profile image view. Connect this. Next up, the label. Drag this. Above or below is fine. So username, label. Next thing is our time ago label. Okay. Now I'm not going to use our icon here because let's just put all of the posts that way. It doesn't matter as much in this phase of implementation, right? Because we don't have a backend yet. Right click here for our caption label. Oops. Now, when you have this problem over here, it's just that a bug in Xcode that you cannot insert it there. So let's just insert that below here. Caption label. Right? So caption label. And then we have the image, this image. Here we call post image view, like this. Okay, post image view. Connect that. And finally, let's have some buttons. This thing, let's have the post stat label. We don't need the button. So here the label is post stat label, like this. Boom. All of the things is set up for us for our cell. So let's go back into our code and let's code this thing out. So go back to the post cells like this, right? Let's make some space. Here we have all the IB outlets, all the IB actions. We don't need the IB actions here. Now, what is our public API for this thing? It means that what is this cell represent? How we are going to display information in this cell? Well, we are going to display a cell, right? The information about a post. So we are going to need a post. Var post is a post like this. Okay? And whenever this post gets the set, a post is again a struct inside our structure post over here. Okay, let me make some water. So let's have a post cell.swift. Whenever this thing get this set, I'm going to call self.update UI. So when we get update UI, right, when I update the UI, then we can have a function update UI here. Then we're going to set things up. So profile image view.image, the IB outlet, right? Profile image view.image to be the post that created by dot profile image. Again, just the implementation of our model. If you would love to see that, just go into the class, right? So we have the post is a post, right? A post is the created by is an user. User is a struct below that has just the username and the profile image. Cool, right? So now let's have the profile image here, and then we have username label dot text to be the post dot created by dot username. Cool. Okay. Next up, let's have the time ago label dot text to be post dot time ago. Like this. The caption label.text to be the post.caption. And then we do the post image view.image to be our post.image. Like this. Right? And then we do the post stat label.text to be a string. And this string we just have what? String interpolation here, right? We use string interpolation, backslash, open and close parentheses. So backslash here is post.number of likes, and then 1, 2, 3 space. I'm sorry, just one space likes, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have backslash again, open and close parentheses. So that we have number of comments post.number of comment. Right? Comment 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 space, and then post.number of shares. Now here we have to use and grab those optionals so that later on we don't have the optional 12 likes, optional 12 shares, right? You know what I mean, right? Alright. Now everything is set up inside this post cell. Pretty simple, right? I know again I said that pretty simple a lot of time in this video, isn't it? It's just because my hope is that I make this thing simplified for you. It's easier for you now. It's my purpose in this thing for you to make this process simpler for you. Now you can go and implement it in your app. Okay, so let's create a new class because now we're done for create a subclass for our cell. Let's create a table view, a controller for the table view. So I will new file. Swift file, and that's okay. Let's call it post or newsfeed table view controller like this, right? Newsfeed table view controller. Let's create that over here. So import UIKit. Okay. So we import UIKit, and let's create a class called newsfeed. Newsfeed table view controller, which is UITableViewController like that, right? So when we have this class, let's set this thing up. Number one, we want to have this table view inside our main storyboard set up to be the custom class. So click into here. The custom class of that thing is going to be our newsfeed table view controller. Right? And then let's change the cell here. We have the post cells. Let's make sure we have the reuse identifier of this post cell too. So this reuse identifier here, let's post cell. Cool. Okay, so this post cell, we go back into newsfeed table view controller. Now, when we run the project now, let's run the project and see how it looks like. Okay? So let's run the project. It's running. Okay, here we go. Okay, now we have the project. So we have a navigation and we have the tab bar. Nothing in the middle yet because we didn't do the data source and the delegates for our table view yet. But before we do the data into the post into the table view using the cell we created for the last 40 minutes, right? I want to make sure that we have a search bar over on top, just like our complete project. You see this? The complete project, we have a little search bar on top. How can we do that? Let's do that, right? The way to do this is quite remarkably easy. So we can have var, a search controller as a variable, and then we do UI search controller like this, right? To be an implicitly ungrab optional. And then let's have var post, say it is an array of posts like that. Okay? To be a bunch of posts that we will populate into the table view. Let's have view.load, super.view.load, like this. So when the view is first loaded, right, we are going to call self.setup search controller, like this, and I'm going to have a function called setup search controller, like that, right? Setup search controller. So let's do the search controller to be UI search controller with the search result controller to be nil. We don't need that thing. Okay? And then all we have to do now is put this search controller onto the navigation controller. So search controller dot, let's do highest navigation bar during representation to be false, right? Let's have the search controller dot deems background during presentation to be true, and also search controller dot search bar dot bar style to be black. Okay, last thing, this is we configure our search bar, right? Let's see over here, insert something, oh, equal, right? So after this is just configure the search bar. So after we do that, let's do navigation item dot title view to be the search controller dot search bar like this, right? And then we do defines presentation context to be true. Now let's run the project, because when we set the navigation item dot title view to be the search bar of the search controller, we should have the search bar on top, just like this, right? And when we click into this thing, we have this thing dims out. See that? And we have the cancel button. Pretty nice, pretty neat feature in iOS. Okay, now last thing we do is we are going to populate. We're going to put the data into the table view, so that each of the cells will have the information of the posts. So let's have here self.fetch post, right? Inside our view load here, we have self.fetch posts. So let's have func fetch post like this. Okay. So inside the fetch post, usually if you are having a backend, then you will call some backend so that you get the post, right? You can inside socialize your apps. We built an Instagram app. Literally, we clone the version of Instagram to post and new images. We share new posts. We authenticate users, log in, sign up. We can comment and post and share and like on each of the posts. So at that time here in the fetch post, you're going to ask your server, ask your backend to give you some posts, right? And immediately update those posts whenever it is available for you. So in this thing, we don't have the backend, so we just do self.post to be our post.fetch posts, like that. Okay? And then we do tailview.reload data. Cool? After we do tailview reload data, all we have to do left is implement the data source and delegate of the tailview. How can we do that? Number one, let me make sure that the tailview here is tailview.separator, the separator color to be, separator style to be none. I know we maybe set that inside our storyboard. Let's make sure we do that. And then tailview dot estimated row height to be tailview dot row height, and tailview dot row height to be UI tailview automatic dimension. This thing, this line right here, these two lines, 23 and 24, is the two lines that allows us to have dynamically height cell for the tailview. Okay, I hope that it makes sense for you and it's pretty simple for you. Okay, so this thing, let me do a comment here. Dynamic table view cell height. Okay, it means that you can have whatever the height of the cell is. So let's have an extension for this class so we can implement a mark. UITableView data source, so extension for Newsfeed. TableViewController, because we don't have to redeclare that we are going to conform to UITableView data source. The reason for that is we already is a subclass of UITableViewController. See this over here? It already implements UITableView data source. So we just have to override the methods inside that thing. So this thing is number of rows in the section. So we just return post.count, right? You know what? I'm going to make sure that this post over here to be optional, because maybe we don't have any post. Then that will be nil. So over here, we're going to do if let post equals post, then we return the post.count, else we return 0. We don't have any post, we return 0. Okay? Next thing, last thing actually is table view cell for row at index path, the last thing over here, right? So here, I'm going to declare a new thing called let cell equals table view. I hope that it makes sense. There's some space. UI cell equals table view dot DQ reusable cell with identifier. DQ reusable identifier here is post cell, right? Which is the identifier we give the table view cell when in the storyboard for index path as a post cell. Ready to do that, right? We have the post cell. Remember, we create the post cell just a few minutes ago inside here, the post cells. Okay? So let's have the cell.post to be self.post optional training subscript index path.row, and we just have to return the cell. Okay, now let's run the project and see how it looks like. Hopefully this time it is complete, it is working. Okay, so here's the project. Wait for it. Okay, here we go. We have a tail view, right? Each of the posts looks beautiful like this. Yeah, it's working now. Congratulations, my friend. That is how you build your newsfeed with just like Facebook. I hope that you enjoyed this training. If you would love to learn this, you love training, please let me know in the comment section. And I know that this is just the first step, right? This is just your first step when you implement a more complex app. Maybe you want to build a social network app. Maybe you want to build apps that share data, that authenticate users, that use this kind of information that you can authenticate users. The user can log in, sign up, users can post and share stuff. You can store data on the web, or you can do your backend as a game, any kind of things. If you would love to do that, I have a new upcoming online course for you called Socialize Your Apps 2017. This is the program where I'm going to help you build 5 to 10 different, it's incredible. I hope that you enjoy this, and I would love to invite you to this course right here called Socialize Your Apps program. This is the place where I share with you my most advanced training on how to build things like Instagram, things like a Nike retail store, and a lot more. So click the button right down below this video and check out how I can help you to socialize your apps.